This lady had no boundaries, none whatsoever. Hey y'all, welcome and or welcome back to my channel. My name is Janae, if you didn't know, and today's video is another true crime episode. So if you're ready, let's go. Alright y'all, so today we're going to be talking about Geraldine Brown Parrish. And this is another one of those cases why I'm not sure why I've never heard of her before I started researching this case. It's wild. So yeah, let's just go ahead and get into it. So Geraldine was born on May 2nd, 1936 in rural North Carolina. And this is where she would grow up with a number of brothers and sisters. Now, I don't know exactly how many, but it's said to have been quite a few. And growing up, her family was what was considered as poor. And growing up in a poor household taught Geraldine one major life lesson, and that was that she was never going to live like that again. She always knew that she wanted a better life than the life that she lived growing up. And eventually her family will move from North Carolina to Baltimore. And it is here in Baltimore where Geraldine would start working on her grand plan to become a rich and wealthy woman. And it started once she started straying away from her Catholic upbringing and got into Santeria and voodoo. And as she got deeper into these teachings and practices, she knew that this was how she was going to make money. This was going to be her money maker. And by the 1970s, she would become a practicing street minister, and she would start to sell her services. So if you wanted a blessing, you was gonna have to pay $25. If you wanted a cursing, you was gonna have to pay $30. You know what I'm saying? Stuff like that. And she started making a lot of money. And with the money that she started earning from her street ministry, Geraldine started dressing better. She started driving better cars. She bought herself a bigger house. She was living the dream that she always knew she would live. But Geraldine wanted more. So along with her street ministry, Geraldine decided that she was going to start collecting husbands. She had at least 8. So what she would do was she would marry them and then make them get a life insurance policy and make her the sole beneficiary. But she didn't kill him. She didn't kill him. What she would do was she would separate from him, not divorce him. She would just leave him and then go marry somebody else. Now, set this little piece of marriage information in your back pocket because we're going to roll back around to it. But for now, we're just going to move along to 1985. Geraldine is now 49 years old, and she has befriended a man named Edwin Gordon. And this was a man who was down on his luck, didn't have a lot going for him, and would do just about anything for some money. And Geraldine knew that. So she went to Edwin with a proposition. And this proposition was for Edwin to kill a man named Frank Ross. Now, I know what you're thinking. Y'all thinking that this was one of her husbands, but it wasn't. It was actually one of her sister's ex-husbands or boyfriends. I was unclear on which one, because one source said he was the ex-husband, one source said he was a current boyfriend, one source said he was an ex-boyfriend. I don't know. But nonetheless, he was involved at some point with one of Geraldine's sisters. So why would she want to kill him? Well, some way, somehow, Geraldine got Frank to get life insurance and make her the sole beneficiary. And so on November 12th, 1985, Edwin would kill Frank. And Frank was found the next day, I think in an alley, and they didn't have any suspects. They didn't have any leads. And his case would end up going cold. And Geraldine would end up receiving her money from Frank's life insurance payout. And as promised, she gave Edwin his $2,000 and went on about her day. And Edwin went on about his. Now, most of the people in Geraldine's family, they knew that she was up to no good. They didn't know how much no good she was up to, but they knew something was up. But wasn't nobody gonna say nothing though, because at this point, she was so into Santeria and voodoo, and they didn't want them problems. They was pretty much scared of her at this point. But one of her family members, though, she didn't care about none of that. She saw the way that Geraldine was living, and she wanted to live like that too. And Geraldine kind of became her role model. And this family member was her niece, Renee Burns. And I don't know if Renee would tell her auntie how much she wanted to be like her and how much she admired her, but one day, Geraldine decided to let Renee in on her money-making scheme. So it's October 6, 1986 now, and Geraldine calls Renee and tells her that she needs her to ride to New Jersey with her for something important. And she also told Renee to bring a friend. And the friend that Renee calls is named Lionel Robinson. And while they was on their way to New Jersey, which is approximately a 2-hour drive away from Baltimore, could be more, but at least 2-hour drive away, Geraldine talked Lionel and Renee into killing a man named Albert Robinson. Now, Albert Robinson and Lionel Robinson, they not cousins or nothing like that. They not related at all. But yeah, that was the task at hand. They were going to go and kill Albert. And Albert just so happens to be one of Geraldine's husbands. So they make it to New Jersey and they meet up with Albert. And they get Albert drunk. And I mean toe bad. This wasn't hard to do though, because Albert was already an alcoholic. So they just kept giving him liquor. More liquor, more liquor. And once they felt like he was drunk enough, they took him out to the railroad tracks where Lionel would shoot and kill him. And once again, Geraldine collected on his insurance money and she kept up her part of the deal, and she paid Lionel and Renee and kept it pushing. And I also read that on the same day as Albert's murder, Lionel also shot and killed Geraldine's brother, Ronald Brown. Now, I don't know how true that is, but I don't put it past Geraldine for her to have it done. So while living off of Albert's life insurance money and potentially her brother's as well, Geraldine started plotting on her next victim. And this was a woman named Helen Wright. And she was Geraldine's live-in housekeeper. And once again, I don't know how Geraldine got Helen to sign over a life insurance policy for her to be the sole beneficiary, but she did. And 5 months after Albert's murder, Geraldine will call up Edwin once again and offer him another $2,000 to kill Helen. And he did just that on March 6th, 1987. And y'all know how this go. Once again, after Helen died, Geraldine collected the insurance money, paid Edwin, went on about her day. But prior to Helen passing away, it said that she actually survived being shot at a couple of months prior. And people are inclined to believe that that was Edwin trying and failing at his murder attempt. But that can't be confirmed nor denied. So now Geraldine on the road. She got a little system going. And just like clockwork, 6 months after orchestrating the murder of Helen, Geraldine was on to the next victim. And this time it was her niece. Not Renee, not the one who helped her murder Albert, but her niece, Dolly Brown. And like always, she called in her trusty hitman, Edwin. And on September 17th, 1987, Edwin set out on his mission, shooting Dolly and her husband, Ronald Michener. And the two of them were both shot multiple times. And Ronald would end up passing away from his wounds. However, Dolly would end up surviving this shooting. But Geraldine couldn't have that, because I don't think she was getting no money for Ronald's death. I think that Ronald just so happened to be with Dolly, and in Geraldine's mind, he was just going to have to be a casualty. So she had Edwin go after Dolly again in March of 1988. And this time, instead of shooting her, Edwin would resort to slitting her throat. However, Dolly survived this attack as well. And you would think that Geraldine would realize that Dolly ain't going, but Geraldine don't give a damn. So again, in May of 1988, Dolly would be shot again in the head 3 more times. But again, Dolly ain't going. And miraculously, some way, somehow, Dolly survived again. And it was after this final attempt on Dolly's life that somebody would finally come forward and pretty much just snitch on Edwin and Geraldine. Now, it's not said who it was. I wouldn't be surprised if it was Dolly, hell. But nonetheless, Edwin and Geraldine were arrested. And Edwin pretty much talked right away. He said that he did murder multiple people, but it was all at the request of Geraldine. But when they went to go interview Geraldine, she started to act insane. Like she was growling and just acting like she didn't have control of her mind, pretty much trying to set up an insanity defense, but it didn't work. And she would end up being charged with conspiracy to commit murder and contract killing, while Edwin would be charged for 3 counts of murder, 4 counts of assault, and conspiracy to commit murder. And they both ended up pleading guilty to organizing and committing 4 murders from 1985 to 1988 in order to collect insurance money. And they were both sentenced to multiple life sentences. And while incarcerated, Geraldine would die from natural causes in 2004. And even though she was convicted of 4 murders, it's believed that she has many more victims out there, because shortly before her arrest in February of 1988, she would marry a 77-year-old man named Rayfield Gillard. And just about 15 days after they were married, Rayfield died. And it was said that he had died from, I think it was a heart attack or natural cause. It was something like that. It wasn't murder. But in lieu of his death, Geraldine received his house, all of his money, his Social Security checks in the amount of $440 a month, and his life insurance. So, yeah. And then it also came out that she had married one of her nephews. Like, this lady had no boundaries. None whatsoever. And if she wouldn't have been caught, she would have kept on killing. She probably would have started collecting on them other 8 husbands. And y'all, I really am curious to know what happened to Dolly. I wonder if she's still alive, because to survive 3 brutal attempts on your life is crazy. I wonder, has she passed away now? And if she did pass away, I'm curious to know like how. But yeah, y'all, that is all I have for today's video. Thank you all so very much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you all in the next one. And growing up in oh my gosh. And it is here where Gerald, oh my gosh, I can't talk. Probably because of that. The deeper that she got into these teachings and practicing, as she got deeper into these teachings and practicing, why do I keep trying to say practicings? Is that even a word? And this was a woman named Helen Wright, and she was Geraldine's, and she was, Edwin set out on his mission, shooting Dolly and her husband, Ronald Mitchner, shooting her. She would marry a 77-year-old man named Rayfield. Yes.